So today I'll be ranking every demon in Geometry Dash made by the creator Hinds. Hinds has recently become my favorite creator, making some of the best hard and insane demons to ever come out of this game. They were so good that they inspired me to make this video. Before I start, I want to say two things. Firstly, I'll be combining my opinion with the level objectively. For some of these I base them off my own opinions more than others, but hey, it's impossible to not be biased all. And secondly, I just want to say that you should play all of Hinds' levels, even the less good ones. Every level on this list is at least a 5 out of 10, and with 14 levels that's very impressive. Without other way, let's start with the worst Hinds level, in my opinion. Spectrum Switch, the only Hinds level that I can confidently say I don't like. Something about the gameplay in the level just doesn't have the same flow or consistency that all the other Hinds levels do. For example, take a look at Dance Massacre, which is Hinds' most popular level. This section of the level uses slopes in a relatively the same way, but by playing the two levels you can understand how much badly slopes can screw up the flow of gameplay, and how much well-used slopes can enhance the gameplay. The decoration is still really great. It's a Hinds level, they all look good, except I still think this level, which came out in 2.1, doesn't look much better than most of Hinds' 1.9 or 2.0 levels. The last thing, I just don't really like the song that much. It feels too repetitive while the gameplay feels too inconsistent and changing, and the actual melody is not that interesting to me. I know a lot of people like this level, but I'm sorry to say that I'm not one of them. 9 Step, a level that everyone remembers. So I just played this in practice and I already forgot most of what happens in the level. This is Hinds' second oldest demon, and it was sad like an even older level. This doesn't mean the decoration is bad, in fact it's a really good recreation of 1.6 in 1.9. The main problem with the level is the gameplay, and this just goes to show how good Hinds is as a creator. The gameplay is still pretty good, better than most other insane demons from its time. There isn't that much to say about this level, everything about it is just a little bit above average. This one might make some people mad. I don't know what most people think about this level, but I think that it's pretty good, except for one thing. Take a look at this. Do you get it? A memory part where you have to rely entirely on muscle memory. This would be fine by itself, but the timings aren't even synced correctly most of the time, and so it would be jumping too early and just praying that you remembered right. And it's at the very end of the level, so your nerves will be kicking in and making it even harder to remember exactly when to click. This one part absolutely ruins the level, and I think that would be at least 2 spots ahead without this part. The rest of the level is pretty decent, especially the wave and UFO right before the ending. And yes, I know the level's not meant to be a serious project, but I'm ranking all of his levels, so I can't give this one a pass, just because it didn't have as much care put into it. The slightly better, significantly harder 9 level. I genuinely don't know why I put this level higher than 9 Step, because the decoration is a bit worse and the gameplay is way worse. It feels like if Seri Never Clear had been made for Theory of Everything instead of Electromagnet Adventures. There's just something about it, probably the resemblance to original TOE, that makes it seem better despite being objectively worse than 9 Step. This is the placement that I have the least idea why and the least to say about. Wait, what is Taken? This level is extremely forgotten because it was made using old style for a creator contest. The thing is, this level is a really good recreation of old levels that still hold up for today's standards. The gameplay is also surprisingly fun, despite being at normal speed the whole time with a limited amount of game modes. I don't know why more people haven't played this, even though it isn't truly an old level. I think it's more like a faithful reimagining, and I definitely recommend trying it. I think I will soon. I think this is my most controversial placement so far. Now we're getting into the levels that are 8 out of 10 and above, and we start off with Breakthrough. This is actually Hinds' first demon, and I think that is what probably makes this level so unique. It doesn't seem like anyone else during this time even thought of gameplay or decoration like this. I mean, look at this ball and the structuring in the ship part. This was back in 2016, and I still don't think there's a single level from back then that matches the uniqueness of this level. Why is it so low then? Simple, the gameplay. As you may have guessed already, I don't like memory, especially not parts that are specifically muscle memory, where the part is invisible or too fast to sight read, and you have to memorize exactly when to click and when to release. I actually do really like this level, but again the ending ruins it for me. I'm pretty sure it acts different on different refresh rates, so my opinion may change, but at 144Hz this ending feels so wrong to do, because again the slopes are used in a way that feels extremely inconsistent. The rest of the level is really good, especially the dual ball and the wave. I wish I could like this level more, but for now this is exactly what I think of it. One of Hinds' earliest demons and one of his easiest. This level is the definition of a very good level. The gameplay is satisfying and well synced, the decoration is amazing for the time, probably even better than Breakthrough. The song fits incredibly well, and some of the gimmicks used in the levels are still unused in any level that I've ever seen. I think what stands out to me most is this ball part where you go inside a big structure, and this ship with the yellow orbs. I know that gameplay now is really complicated and always trying to one-up the last level, but Hinds' levels are arguably as experimental as Funny Games levels back in the day. I think that a lot of people overshadow this level because Hinds is popular for his hard and insane demons, but this one's definitely worth a few hundred attempts to play and beat. Oh boy, Night Terrors. I think this is Hinds' most mixed level with some very high highs and very low lows. Let's start with the bad stuff, the balancing. The first half is extremely hard, I would say that's almost beginner extreme difficulty. Then the second half is much easier, fitting for an easy insane demon. This is how most of Hinds' levels are balanced, with the first half being harder than the second. And while I definitely prefer it this way over having the second half be harder, I just think the difficulty change in this level is too drastic in this case to work. Now into the actual parts of the level. The pre-drop's not good. The timings are pretty difficult, and many of them are blind or just unfair. Unfair is exactly how I would describe the initial drop. 4 insanely hard timings with badly used slopes that are always annoying to die to. And then there's this abomination. This doesn't look very hard, but if you try playing for yourself, you'll understand. The mini-wave is really inconsistent, and the ball between the two sections is extremely tight. After this, the level gets a whole lot better. Some people may complain about this part, but I personally don't think it's as bad as the stuff in the first half. Wow, and after all that, you probably think I hate this level and are wondering why it's in the middle. Like I said earlier, this level has some really bad parts, but also some insanely good parts. I think that 36 to 50, despite having the terrible mini-wave, is actually really fun and satisfying to pull off. The last part, while being almost free, is really well made because even though you're so confident you won't die there, the build-up of intensity from everything that before makes this part terrifying, and I think the color switch from red to gray complements the song's intensity drop perfectly. On top of all this, the decoration is a really great take on the hell theme, since it plays less on the idea that you're going to die, give up edginess, and more of a holy crap I'm scared intensity. One final thing, I fluked this level from 62, but I still did not have that great of a time with it. It's definitely a great level, but not one I would recommend as a first insane demon. Cyber Chaos, the hardest Hinds level. My only experience with this level is that I got 77 to 100 once, then tried the memory part and gave up because I have the memory of a goldfish. This is another of Hinds' oldest levels, but it was too hard for him back then and so he had to nerf and balance it. Then he verified it more recently. I think this is Hinds' most consistent level that's not in the top 3, because there really isn't anything I absolutely love or hate about it. The decoration is a really interesting idea for 1.9, and it has some really interesting gameplay concepts like the dual ship at 77. One thing I think is really interesting about it is how it uses the ball game mode. All of Hinds' levels use the ball game mode a lot, but this level has ball as its main source of difficulty, and back when it was made, I think it's really cool how it doesn't just rely on ship and wave while still having parts of each that help increase the difficulty. The other complaints I have is that it has a sonic wave ball part and a memory part, but the memory part's just my fault. I can't personally recommend this one since I haven't beaten it, but it's a Hinds level so it can't be bad. Finally at the top 5, and what better way to start than with the first Hinds level I beat. Dance Massacre is such a classic, especially to me. I know a lot of people like to hate on the gameplay for being unbalanced and inconsistent, but I actually never ran into these problems. Seriously, this was my first hard demon and I beat it on 60Hz in under 500 attempts. And now finally, this is how slip gameplay should be, in my eyes. I agree that the blue orbs can be kind of unwilling to work, but I think that's more of a problem in the game's design than from Hinds' gameplay. The only part that I will definitely call out is the UFO. This part is pretty stupid and the click pattern is unnecessarily complicated. I think the level absolutely shines at the first ball part and the last UFO part, where the song reaches one final high before going down. That's another thing. Unlike with Spectrum Switch, I think the song complements the level insanely well, and I think the song is also pretty good. The decoration, while certainly not even close to Hinds' best, is great, and I think the best part is how it represents the change from stellar 1.9 decoration into ugly early 2.0 decoration, and how Hinds was able to find a perfect mix of both to make a really good level that shows the transition of updates in the game. Get ready for an entire essay because now we're at Psychosis. This is the level that I have the most history with. About a year ago, when I was a wee lad, I wanted to beat Psychosis as a new hardest, and this was back when I was playing on 60Hz. I started the level about the time school was starting, and I would call at night and do homework with my friends and play the level almost every night. I started around August to September, and I'd been making slow but really good progress. I was consistent at the pre-drop, and the drop was the easiest part of the level. I started getting past 50% every 10 attempts, and this was in November. Then December rolls around, and I get the worst fail of my life, 99% on the level. This death hurt so badly because my last progress was 79, where I thought the level got much easier. I was so wrong about that. I keep playing through Christmas, and then, while calling my friends on New Year's Eve, I got 97 on the level. This one hurt even worse than the last because my consistency was gone, and I'd kind of lost hope in beating it anytime soon, as I'd spent almost 2,500 attempts. Then, around my birthday, which was early in January, I finally got Mega Hack V7 and I tried the level on 100Hz to see what kind of a difference it made. No jokes, I beat it in 8 attempts. To this day, I still haven't beaten it on 60Hz, but I will definitely do it sometime in the future. Okay, that was a really long intro, now onto the actual level. I think this level is even more polarizing than Night Terrors. The pre-drop may seem easy on most refresh rates, but it took hundreds of attempts to get consistent on 60Hz, specifically the first ship and the straight fly with gravity switches at about 34%. The actual drop of the level is really good, by far the easiest part of the level. I think the only reason I played the level as long as I did was because of how fun it was to play from 40. Then we get to what is easily the scariest part of the level to me, the 67% ship. I died to this ship 67 to 77 over 25 times, and I only ever passed it around 10 times. It may look like a joke, but holy crap on 60Hz, upside down mini straight fly is a nightmare, and it's at the end of the level where the nerves build up. The only part that's almost as scary is the wave at 80%. The gameplay is so simple where you just go up and down, but by that point my heart is going so fast that I can't concentrate. I died here 2 or 3 times at the beginning and at the end. I also died at the ball once, and I severely underestimated the difficulty of the last cube from 0. With nerves going crazy, it's so hard not to click too late or to hold too long in this part, and I died here twice. Despite how terrible of an experience I had with this level, I respect the hell out of it. This is definitely peak 2.0 decoration, and although the gameplay made me want to die multiple times, it's not as bad as I think. I would highly recommend this, just please don't play it on 60Hz. A very respectable 4th place level. Firewall is insanely funny to me. Probably not what you expected out of this one, but let me explain why. After I'd gotten a new PC that could run really well, I started playing on 240Hz, and this was the first level I beat with it. What makes it so funny is that I fluked it from 49 while most of my family was in the room with me. It was really funny because I told my brother, like, imagine I beat it this attempt at around 35% and then I beat it. So about the actual level, it's literally just Psychosis but better. The gameplay is much less frustrating and the balancing is much more forgiving. Like I mentioned before, the second half is so much easier than the first half. The only part I will call out is the pre-drop. I just think it goes on for too long and the difficulty is just too hard. I honestly wish I could have spent more time on this level, but the only thing that might have ruined it is the pre-drop. The first wave and the very beginning of the second half are both some of the best parts in Hinds' levels. The decoration is not quite as good as Psychosis, but the gameplay makes up for every minor mistake it has. I would highly recommend this one. It's Diffuse time. Okay, so Diffuse is one of my favorite levels in the entire game. I can't stress enough how perfect this level is in every way. It has a short pre-drop that's hard but extremely consistent. It has probably the most fun drop I've ever played. It's balanced so well it's almost unreal. The song fits perfectly. The decoration is some of the best of all time. The list goes on. I might have to make an entire video on this level because it's just that good. There are only 2 things at this level that are not that good, which are the 60Hz frame perfect at 60% and the blind jump at 84%, but they're so minor in the grand scheme of the level. I love this level to death, and I wish I could have played it for way more than I got to. It was only about 800 attempts. I still go back and play it repeatedly, but it's just not as much fun as the first time you play it. I actually had this written down as the best Hinds level before, but after looking back, I decided to change it because I realized that the number 1 spot's just objectively a better level, although I still think Diffuse is my favorite Hinds level. Actually, as I'm reading this, I've changed my mind. I think number 1 is my favorite now, but yeah, this was my favorite level in the game. The only thing I agree with people disliking about the level is that it should be an Insane Demon, but that's definitely not Hinds' fault, and so it doesn't affect the actual level. This is the level that I recommend the most if you have enough skill to beat an Insane Demon at least. And now onto the best Hinds level, which I'm sure all of you guessed, which it's not that hard to guess. Let's be honest, you knew coming into the video that Mastermind would be number 1. This level is actually perfect in every way. I know I said Diffuse was no perfect, but this level is seriously perfect. The gameplay, the decoration, the song, the intensity buildup, I don't know how to describe it. The level is memory based and it's still my favorite level in the game. I'll try my best to explain exactly how this level does everything so well. Firstly, the gameplay, which is, as I said before, it's memory based. But this is the type of memory gameplay where you need to learn how to play the level and memorize how the gameplay works, rather than just memorizing specifically which block to jump on. Every part represents difficulty and memory in a unique way, and I would say the absolute highlights are the first wave at around 30%, and the mini robot at around 65%. The gameplay in the wave is so much different than anything I'd ever seen before, all without introducing any weird gimmicks such as D-blocks, and the decoration just fits the gameplay style and the song so well. The mini robot, I think, is a masterful at using the song to create intensity, similar to the mountain part in Nelv. The way the song swaps between high and low notes while the player swaps between different platforms is just so interesting to me. The levels balance incredibly well too. This is one of the only Hinds levels that's harder in the second half, and while it normally be a downgrade, I think it actually helps build up the intensity. So far I've beaten this level 3 times, once for the completion, another time after that for a video, and just recently on my phone during a class at school. Actually, another thing, if you've noticed in the bottom left, it says like the run, so yeah, I've done runs on all the levels, but this is the only level that I actually beat from 0 again, so this is my 4th time beating it, hooray. So, yeah, I also beat it at school on mobile, which is my hardest on mobile. So if you want to play a memory-based level or an easy Insane Demon, I cannot recommend this one enough. To be perfectly honest, I think the gameplay is easier than Diffuse, and so it would be perfect for first Insane Demon. Alright, well, so that was my ranking of all the Hinds levels. I really do think that Hinds is the best creator in this game's history, and I strongly suggest checking out his levels if you haven't already. If you enjoyed this video, a like would be greatly appreciated. If you want more videos like this, just leave a comment for what you would want to see. Thank you, and good night. Also, play Mastermind. Do it.